Yeah. Are we ready? No, I think it's relevant.
We are ready. Okay, let's call,
City attorney. I'll bring it up.
meeting to order, guys. Mr. Clerk, do you want to take the roll?
Yes, Mr. Van.
Julie.
Present.
Oh, no, thank you.
Ms. Patterson.
Here.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Here.
Ms. Latoon.
Present.
Mr. Raven.
Present.
Mr. Starkman.
Here.
You have a quorum, full board.
Excellent. All right, well, welcome, everybody.
We never got that last person appointed, it's somebody, so it's played.
Apparently.
We're
getting to the finish line, right?
Well, at this point, it is too late, yeah. Yeah, I know. I haven't had these for initials or that.
Okay, guys,
Interesting.
let's take up the agenda. Welcome, everybody. Item one is minutes. Anybody wanna, there's two sets of minutes here. Anybody have any questions on the minutes? So moved. Any
Second.
Second by Rand, Sam. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Zero, mark it unanimous, Rob. Thank you. Okay, guys, we have a few items that are kind of follow-ups. I know there's a request to take something, or make sure that we take something today. But let me at least get through some of the ones that we've seen on numerous occasions, and hopefully we can put these to bed. So item two, Nick, this is Rob coming to this? Raul,
Yes, he's here.
he's here?
Yes.
Where?
He just
No.
He's popular here. He just got pulled into somebody's office.
You don't
So
see him sitting down there.
he'll,
Yeah, I know. I'm like, yeah, it's my imaginary friend. Do you want to start while we wait on him? I think this is pretty ready to go, but.
you want to start on 201? On number 3.
Okay.
Did they vote on that?
Yeah, we did it.
Okay. Yeah, why don't we send, I think Ro should be here for item 2.
So you want to do 3?
Okay, so anyway, you all approved number 3. The reason why we felt that we just wanted to bring it back to the board, just kind of to give you a little bit of notice as to what we have done. And this falls under the heading of, you know, how we have discussed that if there are changes that are that we in the legal department feel need to be done or tweaked to the issues that you've already approved, but that are not substantive and that are consistent with what the board already approved, then we had the authority to do that on our own. And this is an example of that. We normally wouldn't have brought this back to you under that heading. However, there were changes to the ballot question that we felt, having looked at it again and having reviewed the minutes from the July meeting, the January 9th meeting, we felt were appropriate. But before I get to that, I just want to say one thing. As part of the text related to this change of method, remember we had discussed vacancy and candidacy. Well, there were also a couple of tweaks that Nick and I made, just clarifying that the vacancy and candidacy would be triggered if there were equal to or less than the number of commissioner candidates. But more significantly, we realized that, you know, your proposal is presuming commencing with the 2025 general election cycle. When we were thinking about this, again, we realized that there could be an instant where the city needs to invoke that vacancy and candidacy provision from the November 2024 election through the November 2025 election. And that instance could be, let's say, if there's a vacancy and candidacy and the city commission decides to call a special election. So
If someone were to vacate and say no.
Yeah.
Okay.
no, not now, because remember, the election is proposed to be on the November 2024
I'm
ballot.
sorry, yeah, I'm sorry,
Right,
between that.
so for that, exactly.
That year.
1 year.
Exactly,
That's
for
1
that
year.
1 year, exactly. So that limited gap, we are retaining the original language, because under the original language, it would be under the existing method of election, whereby, you know, we don't
Oh,
have
if they,
separate election.
if they call a special election sometime after November 2024.
But before the
Before
city's
the
general,
city's election.
exactly,
That if you called an election, it would be run under the current rules.
exactly,
Right.
exactly,
Yeah, that makes sense.
exactly. So, and
For
that's
the
all
remainder of
consistent.
that term or up until the next. election.
Exactly, exactly.
Would
Now,
that
here's the
be
ballot
here?
question
Is that
thing.
what's here or is that
No,
something?
we didn't give you the text
Oh.
because it was consistent with what you all, remember again, we have discussed that. I know the board appreciates the fact, and we appreciate you. That, been a long day, that, when the board gives us direction pursuant to vote of the board, we still are reviewing our material. And the reason for that is because things may occur that we feel that we need to tweak it. And again, so long as it is consistent with what you all have proposed or approved, and it is not substantive, you've acknowledged that we have the authority to do that. The ballot question is in front of you again. Now, we're not necessarily saying you need to approve it again unless you wish to. But here's the main reason why we tweaked it. So Ralph sends us the after actions after the meetings to review. And in looking at the after action from July 9th, there was a comment of Julie that was very absolutely.
I say?
Is it a good thing or a bad thing?
Right. But there was a comment of Julie that, made us think. And the comment of Julie was, when we were looking at the ballot language for this particular provision, and we were talking about the change of method, Julie made a suggestion to delete the word all, where we had originally that we're changing, basically we were changing the commissioner's election instead of by group, where it's a majority vote, to provide that that all commissioner candidates would be elected with the highest vote getter, being elected. And Julie made a comment during the July 9th meeting of deleting the word all. Well, here we are, fast forward, and we're reviewing the minutes. And, when we looked again at the ballot language, we thought, we don't want any, even though we feel that there is a record explaining this, and it's certainly all of our meetings have been open to the public, and the public has had full and continues to have full opportunity to voice their positions on these matters, so that the public is fully informed, that we were concerned that the use of the word all might somehow convey to a voter that this change of method meant all 6 of them.
Right.
So you, Julie.
Good.
So
Great.
we revised it, and that's the language you have in front of you now. I will say also, in the course of that, we switched the sequence of the bullet points, where now the moving of the dates is first. And I'll tell you why we're recommending that. Number one, it is a more clear-cut issue for the voters to understand, but it also puts in context that will lead into the second bullet point, that the commissioner's general election date will be the first Tuesday in November, which leads into the second. So for those reasons, we revised the ballot question. You've already approved it. We don't necessarily feel you need to approve it again, but we just want to explain to you why.
But where's, I'll get
I'll
to
hold
your,
it, okay. I'll hold it.
where's your, what is it that you changed then? In
Right.
The question.
Well, again, we changed the sequence of the second to the first, but with regard bullet point, but with regard to the second bullet point, we say eliminating commissioner group designations. The version you approved said eliminating commissioner groups. Just to be clear, we want to make sure the designations, we don't want anyone to think that the commissioners' terms are being completely, abolished, because obviously, we know that they're not, and the voters understand that from listening to all of your meetings, which are public. So we changed eliminating commissioner group designations, whereby each group's majority vote elected, providing it state commissioner candidates. We no longer say all commissioner candidates, and the rest of it is the same.
Okay.
So we just feel this is a ballot question tweaked that more fully represents the board's.
I'll get to your
Yeah,
answer,
I'll hold it.
but the group, is this, it sounds like this is consistent with what we were recommending,
Yeah,
right?
sounds fine.
Okay, so then Ron, now you have,
Yeah,
Question?
I'm gonna bring something up that I think most of you thought was probably settled, but I was discussing the new election process with several neighborhood leaders we had a meeting. And the question was asked, so the question was, well, why are you doing the mayor in advance? Why not do all of the election, all of the the main election on that November date. And if, and only if you need a runoff for the mayor, which probably, as we've said from past experience, only happens like one every 6 years, that in that case, you would push it out and have that later. The idea here being that what we've done set up now is automatically, we're gonna have 2 elections every year. That's a lot of extra work when in order to solve a problem that doesn't occur that often, or it doesn't occur every 2 years. So my proposal is that we revise what we did here. Just, keeping, everybody thinks it's a great idea to eliminate the seats, the districts, that whole stuff. Everybody loves that, but that what we do is that we have the election for the mayor and everybody else on that first week in November. And if and only if we need a runoff, then we do that 4 weeks later.
Well, the only thing much of that is policy call, but the only thing that I would comment on that is Christina White, who's the election supervisor, has appeared before this board and has told you that the city, all cities in Miami-Dade County, due to constraints of the election department's workload, must change if they have only a 2-week gap between the general and the and Christina's also told the board that it is not her concern whether the city wishes to change our elections from having a 4-week gap between November, December, or October, November, or August to November. She doesn't, that's not her concern.
That's right. I'm saying 4 weeks after, I understand 4. I'm saying
Right,
4
I'm
weeks,
headed
3
somewhere. I'm leading
Oh,
somewhere.
go ahead.
Thank you. So, but and pardon me, only because we have a lot of things on the agenda, I don't. But there has been discussion with the board that December, which could do, leads into our Basel and issues like that. But I do want to say, consistent with what Ron is raising, there does need to be some statement into the record again today, just explaining the reasons for having under this change of method, the retaining the majority vote for the mayor with a runoff and not doing that for the commissioners. That's a separate issue.
Yeah, but I just think from
I just need that for the record.
from an administrative, spring election,
Yeah,
even work for
November.
Christine, that we have created a situation now where we have 2 elections every 2 years. And one of the benefits that we got when we eliminated the runoffs by this reorganization, we've now taken it back again. Now we have 2 elections again. So that's why I was gonna say that I think it would be better, even if it ran, we'd have to fiddle with when our Basel is or whatever, but get it done in that between 3 week 4 somewhere.
What if we, I'm just questioning, what if we considered the mayor and the commissioners in October and the runoff for mayor in November only? Now that makes November no longer the main election, it makes October the main election.
Us.
But voter turnout is way less in October. than-
Yeah, but my concern is always the turnout in any of these.
Can I weigh in on that?
Well, we're not gonna say no, right?
If you have an election in October, it's gonna be incredibly hard to bring out a serious amount of voters. It has to be a general election day. But I would go to majority, because I do think that the runoff is not a great situation. Because we have a very small percentage of the electorate determining who is going to lead our city. Right now,
That's what we're trying to fix.
yeah, I mean, so I would propose top vote getter. I know it sounds ridiculous, but when
Yeah.
is that what you guys are saying that
Top
we should do?
For,
Yeah.
for commission,
group, right,
For commission, it would be top 3.
but for mayor,
Not for three.
it's.
That runoff though, that runoff is not a fair election. If you make it a month, that is torture. No candidate should have to go through a general and then spend 1 month of runoff. That's not right. I think that's way too long. And it favors the special interest. I would say,
You think it's too long?
yeah, 1 month,
So you would say.
it's hell.
How much shorter is the election? The person who runs the election. says
Now
it
we're
can't be
talking about the
Christina
mayor.
said that it didn't really matter what we wanted, that this was what was gonna happen.
It had to be a minimum of 2 weeks or more.
No, a minimum
No,
of
it
4
can't be
weeks.
a minimum of 4 weeks.
So it could be 2.5 or 3.
It could be.
No, the minimum of 4 weeks.
A minimum.
Minimum of 4
That's-
weeks. Oh, okay.
That's why I said that, she said that, that's the elections department said it doesn't matter what we decide here. That, and we, that's the way it's gonna be, and then she was gonna print it.
Right.
Pretty important.
Oh,
Right.
so then I would eliminate the runoff completely. There has to be a way to do that, just top vote getter.
You guys, go out.
It makes more sense when you have a group of 6 people and somebody's getting 40% of that vote. I mean,
And
Would that be
commissioner,
in
the,
November?
the board has endorsed the idea of highest vote getters for commissioners. So I think the question would be, you know, do we do the same thing for the mayor?
That's, yeah, that's.
I mean,
keep
the question
commission
is,
Separately, so let's talk about
do you
mayor.
want 20% of the electorate to weigh in on this, or do you want 10% of the
Yes,
electorate?
exactly.
And that's the
And
difference.
that's the difference.
Don't you think
And
20% is better than 10?
Which is why I
Wait,
would
how do you
say
get the
the
20?
first vote in October and the second vote in November.
I was thinking if you have 10,000,
No, no, no,
it's a
no.
random number, but how many electorate, we have a, what,
What do you mean
49,000
voter
registered?
turnout?
I'm giving you the perspective from a kid, somebody who's on the ballot.
Oh, okay.
You're, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
wouldn't you rather 20% of our registered electorate weigh in on our election?
Right.
And that,
So
And- and-
so
and
we're
I'll tell you, just
talking
to
about
be-
the November,
One more point, you know, to where Kristen is, commissioners say.
no, Kristen.
It is. In my recollection, going back many years, I have never, except for once, seen the mayor's seat, the person who was first. In the first election. Flip and lose the run. The runoff is an election, it's held,
right?
it rarely changes the outcomes, especially in the mayor's seat.
Can we run that data so that we have
Yeah,
backup?
it was David Dermott.
Yeah.
Can you
David
repeat that?
Dermott.
Can you repeat that?
Raphael,
In the,
can you give us
in
that data?
going, you did that once. I did, in the mayor's seat. When you go back and look at, go back to the nineties. I said you know. Exactly, going back to the nineties, if you look at the outcome of the, I'm gonna call it the general election versus the runoff. In the mayor's seat. Only one time during the David Dermer in 2001, I think. Is correct. That the person who won the general election or had the most votes in the general election, though it went to a runoff. That person, except for in David Dermer's race, that person won the runoff as well. So the runoff doesn't really
So you,
answer the question.
so you would prefer to just have top vote getter, period?
No,
Over,
I prefer what we were doing.
Top vote getter in even years,
Yeah.
even years,
But then you're-
because
then
why
you're-
would you wanna suppress it more, George?
That's-
Wouldn't you want well, how many people vote in an even year? You get a significant increase in voter turnout. You would go from 12,000 voters to potentially double that.
Right.
Why wouldn't we wanna have 40% or 50% of the electorate weigh in? Versus,
well, we talked about it,
Okay.
and I think the reason was that we thought that the commission race wouldn't get much attention, because if you're running this commissioner, everybody's paying attention to the national election, the senate, the governor, and all that,
Becomes more
where,
partisan.
yeah, so, and so the commission race gets sort of lost in the shuttle, whereas if the commission race is the only race, then you get a lot more attention on that.
but a lot less voters.
Well, those, I think, you know, it's still representative, it's not you have more voters, but, and they have a lot more, there's a lot more opportunity to get your message out and for the voters to be informed. If the voters are having to,
So you're saying that if somebody's at the bottom of the ballot, they're not going to be informed, but they are gonna be informed on it.
they're gonna focus on
your-
the national issues, there's all the press, everything is gonna be focused on national elections. And they're not gonna be as informed as they are when we have the off-year election, because it's the only elected official election that they deal with.
But
Then a special interest group becomes more important than some other, like, let's say that you were just focusing on Hispanic seniors that live in, low income housing, right? We know that that's gonna make up 1,500 votes in that election. All of a sudden, that voting block becomes super important. I wanna move away, it's not that I don't wanna recognize our seniors, I just wanna move away from one small group dominating,
what becomes the most important influential bloc then is the Republican and Democratic parties. you start working on the even years, and it becomes partisan. It just can't help but creep in, the coattails. You have the popular president on the ballot, they come, all the Republicans and all the
What's
Democrats.
the worst thing, that we get some Dems in there?
Or ours, either way, but this system shouldn't be a D or an R system, it should be a nonpartisan.
I get that, but I think people have free will, and I think people are going to be targeted with social media and emails, and I have so much confidence in our electorate, Ron, that they will become informed, and those people that are involved in local government would still vote, in my humble opinion. I just think that having more people weigh in versus less is always a good thing.
No doubt, no doubt, so,
So, yeah.
but to go into, that's what Ron, I think you're trying to talk about when you're talking about October, November.
Yeah, well, yeah, we're talking about, I guess it's a separate issue, but the advantage to, Kristen makes the point that I think that you wanna have as much turnout as possible, and we're really making, I think we're pushing the turnout down by having two different elections. And so if we had, and I guess I could live with top vote getter being mayor if I had to compromise. I would, my 1, 2, 3 would be, number one would be kind of do on those years where you have somebody getting less than 50%, you do the runoff, 4 weeks out, but that doesn't appeal to people. My second choice would be top vote getter across the board. And
How do we
then
feel about
last choice would be doing something in October.
How do you guys feel about just a plurality versus the majority, for the mayors? Because we've already decided that on the commission.
I don't buy it candidly. If you have 5 people running, which could easily happen, somebody winds up with 23% of the vote. It's far less of a majority. And we could get close to 50, 50 plus 1 makes a lot of sense.
Well, then you would agree with my first choice. So then my first choice is runoff if you don't have a plurality, but do it in those years when, because it's not gonna be that often. Always, it's gonna be maybe once every 6 years that you do the runoff after the November 2nd. So everybody is in there voting the first time around. All the mayoral candidates, everybody who's in there in the pot when people go out and vote. And then if, worst case, you get 2 people who have a runoff.
4 weeks later.
4 weeks later, it's a lot. Even if you have a lower turnout, you still got the top 2 vote getters. So whichever one kind of wins is it's still
History would
representative.
indicate that the top
I
vote
think
getter is
that's
probably gonna win.
Better than having an important election in October.
And you get more voters, because 20%, think about that, 20% of our electorate, I mean, like, if you get, it works out to be more people voting. If you had if you had a runoff. Because let's say you only got 23%, but that represented 4,500 votes, in a runoff, you might only get 3,500 votes determining the majority, so you would still have more people weighing in. It would still be more democratic.
total,
Let
you
It's
have
not
more
really-
people.
Curious
Let me
for
let
this
the
past
board-
election cycle for mayor, and what I don't have any knowledge of how, based on the general election, how that, I'm curious to see how that.
the turnout, yes. I'll find out.
It was like 3,500 in the first round, it was less in the second round than it was in the
Yeah, it was
first.
always less.
It's always less
Always
than the
less.
second round, it's less votes.
No, I
So
understand.
minor
I'm
got probably
asking-
less votes.
Yeah,
You
I'm
make things
asking
really
for the breakdown.
No,
I can't.
Well, no.
One election, top vote getter.
Curious to see how
That's
that.
it. You eliminate all the
Ron's point
nonsense.
Is, have one election.
Is that a
most
fair
years.
question?
Yeah.
Unless there's a runoff in that year, then it would run off in later November, which is not ideal from everything else that's happening in the calendar, but can be done. And so, I like what we had done, but I'm
If
flexible.
we
in-
find
If we decide to, sorry, if we decide that we want there to be a runoff, I think that it's not inconvenient. I won't say it's convenient, but I won't say I'll say it's not inconvenient to hold it 4 weeks later. Even if it coincides with Basel, it's on a Tuesday, 4 weeks later, everybody's here. I don't see that. That's not a deterrent for me. But I am thinking about the runoff.
I think Basel is a term for a lot of people though. I mean, I understand, some of us would like to get out during Basel, it's not a big deal. But there's a lot of people that don't wanna deal with the traffic and won't come out.
That would
What
be-
if we made it such that, we had enough of a window there so that we could avoid Basel? If it fits before Basel, great, if it has to be after Basel, that could work too. Because they're not seated until,
I'm not seeing
January,
it, so you actually.
so it
finish the
it
election.
doesn't matter, so
Just
you can.
make it,
Yep.
if Basel is always that week after Thanksgiving, make it the second week in November.
Do you realize the
It'll be
amount of
4 or
funding?
5 weeks out. And that's just when it's gonna be, but you can't jump it back
Yeah.
or after. And it's before vacations, Christmas and all that other stuff.
Right.
But
that
if you're
we-
looking
we
at
talked
4
about the
weeks,
Christmas
if
and
you're
the whole
working
deal.
4 weeks after, usually a November election is the, second through the ninth-ish.
Right.
So 4 weeks later, you're talking about December second through the ninth-ish, and that's usually, that week happens to be, I
And
think,
people
usually the
for
most.
Thanksgiving and the whole deal.
Right,
and
so a
so
week
on.
earlier, you're kind of closer to Thanksgiving, a week, I would do 5 weeks and get it out of
Well,
it.
That's what I said.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
what's fundraising? That means special interests are gonna control
I
the
get
city, because now you've elongated something where you have to campaign for 2 weeks, now you wanna make it 5 weeks, that means a mayoral candidate will have to raise $500,000 in that short period of time, it's horrible, and who's giving that money? Contractors, people who want bad contract, and then they have undue influence over the mayor, it's not good, it's not a good system, guys.
But
I'm
we
telling you,
need
this runoff,
a
the
runoff-
financial
A runoff.
implications of a 5 week runoff. Terrible.
So the question then becomes, do we have a runoff or not? Because if there's gonna be a runoff, then we by definition have a 4 week window. According to the supervisor.
Minimum.
Minimum.
So
So if there's gonna be a runoff, we're gonna have a 4 week window.
Right.
Michael was pretty solid against, I kind of like the idea that you do want to have a majority for your leader as the mayor. And so
And do it 5 weeks, because
it's either 5 weeks forward, yeah.
the real shift will be, either it'll be the first week of November or the second. First week of November, 4 weeks later is gonna put you right either at Thanksgiving or the middle of Basel. So if we shifted 5 weeks, it's the second week, or we can even make a decision instead of 5 weeks, the second week in November. I'm sorry, December, which correlates to at least 5 weeks.
And,
Which gives the supervisor of election enough time to
She
print
said
her
we-
ballot.
Say that again, I'm sorry, what was
He's
it?
saying just this, the runoff would be held the second week of December.
we,
With
Tuesday, the
first-
second
with
Tuesday.
With the general, the first Tuesday in
Yes.
November, retaining it the first
Yeah,
Tuesday in
so
November. Okay.
drop the October one. We're not sure yet.
Right, so in theory, the first election is the election day now, first Tuesday in November, and changing, if there is a runoff, the second Tuesday in
Voter
December.
turnout And special interest.
There will be a low
So, I
turnout
mean,
in that election.
I was just saying to Kristen, and she's not buying it, but so like that,
How do you know?
with the change we've made, by eliminating all those runoff elections that take place several weeks after, we've got it down to being only one seat that could potentially have a runoff, so special interest, whatever. 6 seats are now completely,
And that one seat is likely to be every.
only one election and done,
That's
6
likely
seats.
every 6 years.
And then maybe every 6 years,
Right.
and the people who are running, it's gonna be your top 2 vote getters anyway, so it's not like from the other elections, so it's not like we're picking somebody out of the hat anyway.
I know, I'm just saying, I think that if you want success in this, I don't think any of you lobbying the commission for a 5 week runoff is gonna fly. Nobody's voting for that. None of us want that. Nobody who has to run again is gonna endorse that, because it's torture. So you're setting yourself up for failure with this.
But
5 weeks. Now that the runoff is
there
gone
no
from 2 weeks to
alternative
5
then.
weeks.
Yeah.
What?
The supervisor of elections doesn't give us an.
I mean,
alternative.
you know,
Alternative is no runoff, is what.
you figure out a different electoral system where on election day, we pick somebody, and I don't know what that
Ranked
is,
choice
but you
voting
want the
would be good
majority,
for
the
this
most
thing.
people to come out.
Yeah.
Move it to an even year, and that way you know that they're 28%.
Awful Trumpy.
Yeah.
Why?
Election, because the election day is it. We just have one day, everybody's gotta show up at a machine.
Well, I mean, because I think in this world of Citizens United, unfortunately, Michael, special interests and corporate interests rule the day, and to do this to our
Yes, yeah,
city
but
and put us and harangue us over 5 weeks, a 2 week runoff is bad enough, because you've got 1 week to raise money. 5 weeks is like torture,
But you
now I gotta
can't
raise
have it.
money.
The-
Only
the supervisor
the main-
And
election will
I'm gonna
not
be
print
pummeled
out
on television by my opponent, wait, it's for the little guy.
hang on, she's here for another item.
I'm giving you the practicality.
Just among the committee. Question number one. Is there a sentiment to eliminate the mayor's runoff and just have a plurality wins,
So high vote getters becomes mayor.
no matter what?
I-
21%, 25%?
I would-
No, ask it, let me just get a sense so we can put that one, is there any interest in that among the group?
Well, how does that, think about how that impacts the race. Everybody essentially is running for mayor. I mean,
Leave the commissioners out.
I understand, but you know,
No, but
top
plurality,
vote getter becomes mayor. Everybody's essentially running for mayor.
no, not commission. We will still continue to have commission.
Separate
Okay.
election.
Oh, it's a separate, okay,
Separate elections.
I thought you were talking about one
No,
election.
no, I'm sorry.
thank you.
In the election that is for mayor's seat. We have more than two candidates. The top voter.
Well, that's what we agreed to last time, right?
No, we said the top vote two would then go to a runner.
If nobody got more than 50% or just the top two.
Top, if it's so.
It's the
Sorry,
existing section,
existing-
the existing
section.
way.
So,
Okay,
you know, what we,
explain-
so let me
yeah,
say,
run
what we,
it
let me go
again.
back. What we voted on last time.
Right.
For today, is that in October, there would be a mayor's race.
Correct.
And in that mayor's race, if there were two candidates, the winner wins.
Agreed.
If there were more than two candidates and none of them received 50% of the vote, then there would be a runoff in November.
Okay, but that's the system that essentially we have now.
Essentially, we
Okay,
have now.
So that's not a
So
change.
that's not a change. What I'm asking now is, instead of that runoff, if there were more than two people running in the mayor's seat, the top vote getter wins. That's what I think the commissioner is proposing. So I'm trying to get a sense of the group, because if the group isn't there.
So
then
it's
let's
like, could
talk
be,
about the date.
could be 30%, you know,
Could
something
be
much,
30,
yeah.
could be 40, could be,
Right.
in this past election, you had four reasonably strong candidates. And so I don't remember the vote, but I don't know, what was Steve Miner's count in the first runoff? I mean, in the first seat, because he would have won
Got like 28%.
28%.
Was he was the top vote getter?
He was the top
Of
vote
the four, of the four?
Yeah.
Why is it any different in the general election than it is in the runoff?
Yeah,
It's-
30%.
So what we're
So
saying
you'll have
is that it's
12,000 people
Somebody-
now.
no, I'm talking about special interests. Your concern about 4 to 5 more weeks of campaigning and
Another
fundraising.
election.
It should follow the same lines as the general election,
Well, and
so.
you have a whole new
you have-
election.
But you have the same people that are getting behind essentially.
So let's say
I
I'm
understand
grassroots,
that. I
I'm
understand that.
grassroots and I don't want to, you know, and I'm not raising a lot of money, I'm going out there. So my opponent dislikes me or some corporate interest dislikes me, the red light camera people, for example, they hate me because I eliminated their revenue source, right? So they decide that they're just gonna drop $200,000 in bad commercials onto me and I don't have any money to, you know, reciprocate with that. The longer you drag something like that out, the more that corporate interests rule the election. And the beauty of being in a small city like this is that you can actually win an election without a lot of money. I think Stephen Meyer was kind of an example of that this past time. Money didn't rule the day, but in a long runoff, that could change. Just
How much was it,
saying.
Rob? 30%?
30%.
Yeah, so
No, it's
in this
70%
scenario, the
in
mayor's
vote.
election would have been decided by 30%.
But in an even year, if you move it to an
Again,
even year,
We're talking about this. We're talking
Okay.
about this, Kristen.
and then
May,
have
may I
November.
just say one thing, only because the commissioner is here and Commissioner Rosenthal. As we've discussed with the board before, even though the dates of the election are established in the charter, state law permits the city commission in limited instances to amend certain provisions in the charter by ordinance, not presenting them to the voters. The change of election, change of qualifying dates,
Mhm.
and change of terms necessitated by the change of elections are permitted by statute to be amended by the city commission by ordinance,
With 4 votes.
majority vote.
I think
All right,
whatever we're
that's
gonna
not what
do.
we're
should
doing.
be-
I know, I just want
How
to.
does that
Well,
help?
the,
So back to my question then, so if
So
if
we
there's.
can just do that. I know, but I'd like to do a straw ballot before I try to sell that to my colleagues. I wanna see what the election wants.
That's what we're, I'm asking here now, I'm not hearing anybody jumping up and down saying no runoff, other than.
You guys want
May,
All right, for mayor only. All right, so if that's not our sentiment, we recommend to the commission will ultimately decide, put it on the ballot, not put it on the ballot, that's their call. But this group is saying we still want to run off for the mayor, right? Is that what I'm hearing? Right, so then the next question is, when and how? Is it October, November, or November, December?
I mean,
makes
October
sense.
would be like a runoff, the general would become a runoff. And then you want everybody to weigh in at the general and the commission seats are top vote getters in the general.
No, in October, the
Yes.
commission, keep the commission seat is till November. So we're only talking about mayor.
Taken care of.
Mayor is, you either have your runoff, your general in October, the way it's been at least tentatively approved is. The race for mayor will be in October, if there's a runoff, it'll be in November together with the race for commission. That's what we have on the ballot. Ron suggested, instead of that, maybe we do October, scrap the October, do the first run of the mayor in November, second run in December,
If needed.
if needed.
I'm in favor.
I don't have an issue.
You guys?
Wait, so
No,
we're
it's
off
February.
maybe February, sorry.
Yeah, most of the time you're not gonna have a.
So wait, I need to ask a question. So under that proposal, right now, under the city code, the induction date, which corresponds with the ceasing of terms, is upon either the city commission's acceptance from the general, if there is no runoff, or the city
Right.
commission's
Okay.
acceptance from the runoff, if there is a runoff, meaning.
Is there a specific days?
Ye-
After the
It's the
runoff.
first
I mean,
business day that the city commission accepts the final election results.
So
basically it. But my-
Elections gives the result on Friday, it's the next
Use
business
Tuesday.
day, so we do it on Monday.
Right,
Okay.
but my question is, so
That'll
under,
be fine.
right, well, that's the existing, which it could be changed if the
No,
board
that,
wishes.
that's still.
But that's how we've been operating in drafting these amendments, but my question is, if the election is changed from this proposal that you will
All you do is-
approve, but you can change your approval. If you're providing that the mayor's election and the commissioners in the pool election is first Tuesday in November. And if there is a runoff, it'll be 4 weeks later, the first Tuesday in December conceptually. Then my question is, if there is no runoff, would we retain the existing induction process whereby they're all sworn in after the city commission accepts the results from the general?
Yeah,
Okay.
if there's no runoff, then you.
So if
accept it
there
the
is-
first time.
right,
If
I'm
there
just
is a
trying to,
runoff,
for
have
draft,
it the
for
first business
redrafting
after.
this. So then
That's-
if,
And it's 2 weeks after, the second week of December.
the second
Second.
Yeah, we wanna
Tuesday in
do five,
December?
we're gonna do 5 weeks, so we get away from our policy.
Okay, so lame ducks hold over a
Absolutely
little
agree.
longer. So if it is November and we don't have the theory of the October election anymore, then we don't need to change the qualifying date.
Right.
The qualifying date
That
would say in
simplifies
September.
also.
Okay, that is
I'm fine with that.
a good thing.
So
The
let's,
second Tuesday in
so-
December.
the motion, Ron, it'll be your motion, are you gonna phrase
Yeah,
it?
my motion is that, the
Everything we
commission
do.
seats stay the same, everything as we had discussed, but the mayor's race takes place on the same date as the commission race. And if there needs to be and if the runoff is necessary because nobody got
Oh, that's
50%, then that takes place 5 weeks after,
Don't say 5 weeks, let's say in the second week of December.
second week of December.
Okay, I got a motion, you guys
Wait,
got.
break.
Basel doesn't begin until Wednesday, so there's not necessarily a reason if the board doesn't want to move it until the following, that's true, Tuesday.
Pardon?
Basel starts on a Wednesday, so you can still do your election the day before Basel begins.
A lot of the VIP stuff.
Yeah, all the other fairs may be going on, but the
Yeah,
ones
it's a
that,
lot of the.
A lot of the
the
VIP stuff
parties,
is
the-
happening
the
Tuesday night.
pre-parties and all that.
Yeah, it's
stuff.
Thursday, Friday night.
People didn't
They're not
actually.
And it's my house.
Are you voting?
It's like conversation, it's a way.
I would just.
No way that
So the board
somebody
needs to
voting
vote
for
on that.
Friday,
Alright,
right?
so
It's nice
I have-
Friday.
I have a
I was
motion
thinking
to-
kind of strong about it.
Pardon?
I mean, I'm just saying, I don't think, I know for a fact. Dominguez would never, I've heard her say on the dais, that she hated her 1 month runoff so much, she would never vote for it. I'm not voting for it. You're two down so far. I guarantee you, anyone who's been in a runoff is not voting.
But you may,
For that.
But we just-
So if we don't vote for it, I mean, like,
So Chris, the
who's
problem
putting
is
it on the
that you're-
ballot?
you're- Well,
It's a majority to put
that's
it on
up
the
to
ballot.
the commission,
Yeah.
you know, we're asked to do the charter review, we're giving you our best recommendation.
Well, if we're grandfathered in at 2 weeks and making any changes would result in a much longer runoff, when we can have a runoff right now.
We're not grandfathered in.
We're not grandfathered in
Came
at 2
and
weeks.
sat in this chair and said,
Right here
4
and said-
weeks minimum, no matter what.
It says, we're gonna preempt you, it doesn't matter what you do right here, I'm just gonna change.
What do you mean?
Meaning, if
you're
you
not
just.
gonna set up the machines.
Yeah, she says she cannot physically do it.
Right, so we don't have, I believe me, I wish we didn't have runoffs either, because it is a second election and it does get.
Municipalities doing, and are there, do they all run
They're
up?
all marching, they were all marching their orders.
The commission loves this. We've eliminated
All the
three,
commissioner runoffs
we've
are gone.
eliminated 3 runoff election potentially.
But that's even worse, because now you've got an even smaller group of people with more fundraising, like, focused
Well,
on
we have
them and a
only
smaller
one
turnout,
seat
because instead of
affected.
having 4
We have-
candidates in a runoff,
We
you've got
now
one.
have, you now have 6 commissioners who will not have to worry about a runoff.
Yes, but now
Yeah,
when
6
there's
seats.
one person on the ballot, you get the tiniest, even if it's a mayoral election, it's a tiny or
That's what
election.
happened this time.
Because there's one person campaigning as opposed to like 4 candidates campaigning, you understand? So nobody comes out to vote, except for people who are
We just
different.
think it's as less evil than just get on with.
So I got a motion and a second.
Could you clarify the motion, please?
Motion
Yeah.
is do what we have done so far, with the exception of don't change qualifying date.
Right.
No longer an October election. For the mayor, the election will be the first or the
Well,
Tuesday in November.
you're retaining the existing election date that the city has.
Is that what?
Retaining the existing
And if there's
first
a need for a
Tuesday in
runoff for
November
the mayor.
for the general election for the mayor and the runoff for the mayor to be 5 weeks later, the first Tuesday in December. And the commissioners' election,
Just,
what you all have been
just what we have.
proposing.
Right.
Eliminating commissioner group designations, majority
We said
winner,
second.
no runoff.
in
It
Tuesday.
might not be the first Tuesday in
Oh, the
December.
second Tuesday in
Second Tuesday
November?
in December.
Second Tuesday.
no.
No, I thought we were saying, oh, the second Tuesday in December, the runoff
For the runoff.
for the mayor.
Yes, you said first.
Okay, let me just repeat.
Let me do
Okay, you
it
go ahead.
again, so. Eliminate bullet 1 that has to do with the qualifying.
Right,
Keep the general election first Tuesday in November. And the runoff, if there is a need for a runoff for the mayor, would be the second Tuesday in December. Period. The second bullet stays.
well, I may need, to
Yeah,
we may need to tweak it. We'll have to
I
bring
think
this
that's just
in.
about the commission seats, and then, and then the third bullet stays.
So Ron made the motion.
Ron made the motion.
Is there a
Sam
second?
seconded it.
Sam second.
Okay, before we vote on that motion, it might be helpful for the record to have a rationale as to why a runoff is a good idea for the mayor, but not for the commissioners.
Why don't we let Kristen? do it?
Yeah, no, because we're having, for the commissioners, we have now a large pool. And we're taking the top 3. So, and voters will have the opportunity to choose 3. So it's not ranked choice voting, it's kind of, it accomplishes the same thing. So that whereas with the mayor's race, you have only the ability to pick 1 as a voter, and you may have somebody else that you like, but you can't vote for them. So at least with with the way the commission's set up with multiple seats, people are get more than 1 vote.
Look,
So there isn't.
the mayor is somewhat different.
What's
They have a different authority, different rules, different role than the commissioners. What we're suggesting is the commissioners be elected through this multi-block vote. And so it's not quite right choice, but you get to pick among the 3 and the 3. Since you're picking the top 3 vote getters, there is no need for a runoff for that. Because you're basically, exactly.
That is,
Now, the mayor's seat, which is a separate seat where it's not, you don't get to vote for 3 different people, you're only picking 1. What we're saying is that we still would like to see that person receive a 50+1 majority, either in the general or by function of a roll. And we view, at least I view the mayor's seat different, it's slightly, more than the commissioners, although they're one of seven. The mayor does
You know
have some
what,
different roles that.
Right,
commissioners
well,
don't.
when we draft our report and we present it back to the committee, which we'll be discussing timeline today because it is already mid-March. When we present our report, you all may want to tweak what we are writing on that, but I think we basically
yeah.
have some understanding.
Okay.
Motion the second.
Yeah, have a motion and a second, all in favor
So we'll present back at the next meeting,
to this?
the revision to
Yeah.
this, the text and the ballot.
You bring it back, we're gonna talk about it again. I don't think we need to.
So I'd like to make.
We'll have a
motion.
different commissioner here with a different.
So I think we voted on it. If we vote on this.
Let us,
Okay, if we
All in
need to,
favor?
if we need
Aye.
to, if
All
we
in
need to.
favor?
we'll
Aye.
bring it
Any
back.
opposed?
Okay.
No opposed,
Okay.
okay, unless you absolutely need to,
Okay.
or if you all delegate to me, I can look at it and make sure it's
Yeah.
consistent with what was in the motion,
Okay.
I would like to make a motion that we again we're in mid-March. And I mean, we're getting there.
Getting to the
We've
end.
got to wrap this up
Right.
and move on. I mean, because we've got to present.
I don't think you need
guys,
to make a
we've got-
motion to that.
That's our mandate, that's why I'm trying to put things to bed.
Yeah.
Okay, I-
Surprised we talked about it again.
Let's not talk about that.
I think-
I get it,
Yeah, I like the reforms. I think
But,
they're cool. I
um,
think the commissioner.
okay. The,
Alright. Am I next, George?
you.
Speaking of putting things to bed.
Um, Chris, you might like this one, I know you want, I want to give you the courtesy because you asked to come and speak, but,
Okay.
can we? Because this one is again, hopefully wait, we've looked at this a million times.
Yes.
So let's do this one and see if we can knock
It's
this,
201.
item number 2, which is, the disposition of property.
Ah.
Is that it?
Yep.
Mr. Chair, I have a request. If we could defer, the ballot question, final approval ballot question, I'm still playing with it. So, I'd be happy to bring it back at the next meeting.
Then, for the whole thing?
No, because I think we're good on the text. I just want to show the committee that the text incorporates the changes proffered by the committee, which, with regard to sale, exchange, conveyance, to include without limitation air rights, property owned by the Miami Beach Redevelopment Agency or any other city entity and agency. Also, when we're talking about vacations, we also include in the definition of vacations air rights. And I just have a typo on management and concession agreements that instead of approval by majority vote of the commission, the committee voted 5/7 vote. So with that, I think the text is ready to be approved by the
Yeah,
committee.
I read the text. I'm gonna bring it up one more time and then I won't. The language that I thought was difficult, and to interpret is the part about, okay, everything, we do our voting, then we have to ask the city whether or not this piece of property is suitable for affordable housing. Then they come back, and then the commission can still do what they want. And that whole, is it suitable? It seems to me that if there are any commissioners who are thinking that this is good for affordable housing, that will be brought up at the time. And, or they can ask the city administration to do a study of it. But to bake that into here, it just seems like for every single piece of property, we've
Okay.
created an administrative.
Can I say something in support of what you're saying?
Yes,
And I don't want to sway the commission, but just in support of what you're saying, with the draft Bill of Rights, where we included to make certain pronouncements, there is a pronouncement there affirming the city commissions and the city's commitment to providing affordable housing. So, reasonably, Ron, with what you're saying, one could argue that this may be duplicative,
Right.
where the committee has already made a statement with regard to the Bill of Rights on affordable housing. So I'm really saying that in support of what you're saying on second review.
thank you.
So does the committee want to take this out or keep this in?
I hear you, though, if it's not a step in the process, it often gets overlooked or forgotten.
Okay.
But what does it do? This was one that you were most interested in, the affordable housing things.
Right.
You satisfied with it just being in the Bill of Rights, or do you want to say, hey, before you sell it? Listen, hopefully what this does is minimize the opportunity to sell land anyway, so it's not gonna be a free.
Yeah, but the other thing that I find confusing about it is any piece of property could be used for affordable housing. I don't know what we're directing them to do when we say, is it suitable? You have to now, as part of this process, you have to come back and say if it's suitable. Of course, and you could build one affordable house on a piece of property or not. And so you've created an administrative situation where if there is, I think there are enough commissioners who care about this issue as well as residents, that we don't need to put this into the Bill of Rights and make this part of a project.
In 103, you mean?
In 103, because I don't think it's clear what they're supposed to do, except if they could always say, yes, affordable housing is possible.
It was designed as an aspirational piece. And candidly, when I was on the Housing Association, we actually did build one house, for affordable housing.
On city
Hey.
property,
What's that?
on city property, because that's what this is about.
Was it on city? I can't recall if it was on city property or whether or not it was
Probably
just
housing
a piece
property, but-
we had purchased and we built upon. And, if it takes an extra step for them to jump through, so at least it's giving some consideration. And the sense of the community ought to be, we ought to look at
What if you,
affordable
what
housing.
if you, what if you limited it to a certain square footage? Like a lot size of X to be considered, because not every piece of property is gonna be suitable, quote, for affordable housing.
Every
And
piece
it's
of
gonna be
property is,
eliminated.
it's just,
I
it could be
mean,
one unit.
Do you know what I'm thinking?
And it's gonna be eliminated right away. Somebody's gonna look at it and say, no, this doesn't work here. For
Well-
whatever reason, but at least the consideration was that somebody thought enough to look at that.
So then you go down the rabbit hole of who's gonna look at it, how long they're gonna look at it, and at what point are they done looking at it? And then then you're gonna have the fight of, okay, well, maybe that's not the highest and best use of this
It
land.
may not be.
And
that's,
it, but it's,
discrimination.
but
Right,
it's,
then
but it's,
they make a decision.
Alright,
And
so-
part of the calculus is that they're gonna consider that.
but can we, okay, but you need to have some sort of limits or parameters where you've got X square footage or something like that. I mean, you can't just have a lot end or something like that. I mean, I don't.
Yeah.
You do you understand?
Yeah, I think it's, as you said, I think it's duplicative, because if we're
Yeah.
committed to affordable housing, then you've got a lot of other pieces of property, not even those that we're necessarily going to try to sell, that can be looked at and that should be looked at.
Let me,
And if you're getting to the point where somebody is gonna recommend a sale of a piece of property, they've already gone through some of that,
in
because.
some instances, we've been getting a lot of unsolicited,
It's already
unsolicited.
it's really covered already, not here, but it's covered
Doesn't
elsewhere.
need to.
Right.
Well,
That's the bottom line.
proposed, yeah.
So should we just?
I was
take a
gonna
vote on it?
suggest.
Yes.
so
Let's take a vote on it.
Let's vote.
Bill,
Let's.
My motion is we take that out.
It's not here.
No, it's in the text. It's in the, how do you,
It's in the Bill of Rights.
Right, the Bill of Rights.
no, no.
Well, we're proposing to add it to the Bill of Rights. Right, that's what I
It's
mean.
in the Bill of Rights. So we're saying that
That's where the.
you can take this out. of the bill.
Let's not put it in this group and just put it in the Bill of Rights. I'm hearing two over there, three.
No, they're saying the same thing.
What?
To take it out for one hour.
Curiosity, is there anything in the charter that
I like your
says that
proposal.
we, as a city, that we have to have a certain proportionate amount of affordable
No,
workforce housing
not in the
based on
charter. That's evaluated every 5 years in the city's consolidated plan,
Okay.
because it's fluid, but not in the
So if
charter.
it's evaluated every 5 years, then it's made,
Correct.
everybody's aware of, if
It's a
we
goal.
need more, for
Yes.
example, to accommodate.
Yes,
Okay, so that's kind
Oh,
of.
look, I sent the consensus.
Yeah, let's take it.
good point, Judy.
And I don't understand what the problem, I read this and it says staff will look at it.
It's in the
Make
charter,
it a-
though. This is putting it in the charter. as opposed to-
No, I know it's in the charter and it's ought to be important enough if this community feels that affordable housing is desirable and we want it. Why shouldn't it be in a charter?
What if instead of the word suitable, it
Let's
said
put it to a vote.
advisable?
I mean, I think we understand your position, but I think everybody
All right,
feels
so-
differently.
Ron, let's do.
You're eliminating, you're eliminating. So let's, so.
Preempted, is this to circumvent a preemption? Right
No.
now, you have the Live
No,
Local Act.
no,
and
no,
already
it's-
superseded
no, no,
by
no.
that.
That's another.
This is if we sell city property.
Just for city
Only city-
property.
yes, city
It's
property.
giving the manager a heck of a lot of power here.
What kind of
It's
power?
all based on the manager's analysis.
It's
The
just.
manager's
Developers
analysis
analysis.
shall be presented, I don't know what
There's
the,
no
what kind of
analysis.
agreement.
We're gonna, let me suggest that
Man,
you're gonna bring back you're gonna bring back.
Pulling you off this committee, man.
I'm hearing the sense.
Yeah.
Nobody who cares more about affordable housing than Kristen. and
Without
she doesn't
D?
think it's-
Okay.
That's fine.
I
I
don't
don't
think so.
think over the over
We
regulation.
got it.
So we
we're gonna
voted
bring
to
the,
jettison it?
we're gonna bring
Add some D.
we're gonna bring back the question, the ballot question, which you wanted to defer.
Yes, thank
Together
you.
with that, you're gonna bring the text without D.
Okay. Thank you.
So there was no vote or you have?
We have a vote.
We should
Let's
have
have a vote.
Yeah.
So I
So
had a
eliminate
motion by
D.
Commissioner.
I move we eliminate D.
Huddle start.
Ron and Ron's the mover,
Oh, you made that motion?
Second.
Second.
second by second. All in favor? All opposed?
So 2 no,
Oh, really? Wow. You're
George
close to that.
Gonzalez and Michael Band are no.
But
But it is
what
what
do
it
you
is.
care about little
It's
pieces?
inappropriate.
4-2.
No, the language is just.
There's someone who buys shoes like
Gonna be
you.
a-
Stay in there.
Okay, guys.
Not me.
So you know what you're doing, Ro?
Yes, sir.
Got it?
You're bringing back the text without D.
No.
Question. What is the third bullet on this ballot question? Number one is totally clear. Voter approval of
Oh,
Article
the third
32.
bullet is Commissioner, George Gonzalez thought it would be a good idea, because right now we have chapter 82,
Mhm.
right? Which specifies the procedures for sale and lease, planning board analysis, appraisal, competitive bidding, et cetera. And George thought it would be a good idea to incorporate those in the charter so that, in case, so that they wouldn't be deleted by ordinance amendment, and it would serve as a bare minimum in the charter, a bare minimum threshold. And in order to change it, you'd have to have a referendum. So he wanted to give those procedures more protection.
You mean the planning analysis, the appraisal?
Correct.
Public, I find that just the way that it's written, it's confusing.
Well, that's why I
think
want to
people
play
know-
with the ballot question.
That's why it was bring back.
Yeah, there's a whole, what was called the Shapiro ordinance.
Yeah,
Look at the
because I've
text,
only got
it's one through
75
7.
words.
But so the charter question isn't capturing everything, but that has been in place for maybe 30 something years. If you enshrine it in the charter,
It
a
doesn't-
future commission can't change those and just sell land willy-nilly.
Okay.
We're saying
That's
you
what
should do
want.
those.
That's what you want.
Okay. They
That's
can say,
why I
"Hey,
want to
that's
play with the
appraisal."
question.
Okay,
That's what
Yeah,
you want.
yeah.
incorporation of code requirements for public hearing. I see. There's gotta be a way to phrase.
And you got nobody to grab.
Spell it out because it'd be
And
too
thank
many
you, I
words.
appreciate the input.
But the text is pretty clear that all these things we need to do if you're ever
Yeah.
gonna sell land.
Yeah,
And
in
look,
the
bottom
text,
line-
it's very
And
clear.
the bottom line is, if you're gonna sell land, you're likely gonna need a referendum. Any land.
Any kind of
Any
land.
kind
I
of
think that's a great protection
Any
to have.
land,
Agreed.
not waterfront, not oceanfront, whatever it is.
During COVID, that the commission said, we need money, give us a list of
Right.
200 parcels that we have across the city, and those were about to be,
I know.
and then it was whack-a-mole trying to stop them all from being sold, and that was a
Yes,
very
well, now-
scary.
Well, now you need a
They
referendum.
need a referendum for each.
Good.
Yeah,
You have to
Or
put
all
this on the ballot, though.
That one I'll put on the
You guys-
ballot, the third part of it is just very confusing, if you want us to vote on this, it's gonna have to just be more clear
Okay.
thing.
All right.
Mr.
so-
Mo-
Mr. Chairman, I just have one more comment. Sorry to bring this back up, but on item 3, on 201, Jean pointed out, and it's a great point, that by providing for a later runoff, that we'll be extending.
Well, there may be. So remember that I mentioned that by statute, the city has the authority to amend a charter provision by ordinance instead of submitting out to voter approval. If you're changing the election date, the qualifying date, or changing terms necessitated by the change of election date. Under this latest proposal, there would be a potential extension of terms for those members of the commission who were elected in 2021 and 2023 by 1 month. So that would need to be referenced in the ballot question too. So we will need to bring this back to you at the next meeting.
Effectuating, but just this one time.
That's right. Well, it's for those two election terms. So it would be for the election term 2025, for terms expiring 2021, and 27 for terms expiring 23. Those, and they're basically all of the incumbents. So as of this November's election, as of the November 2024 election,
For the commission.
all of the incumbents will potentially, under this proposal,
Additional-
not the one that you already
Okay.
approved, but under this one, have the potential for their terms to be extended by 1 month. And that
So
needs to be in the ballot. That needs to be,
Text.
what needs to be a vote. So we need to rewrite the text in the ballot, and we will be presenting this back to you. But it should be a short discussion.
Supposed to be. I do, I know that we have a long agenda, but Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez called me and asked, how do you get on this ballot, or on this agenda? And I mentioned either the commission as a body refers items to us as they've done. Or commissioners can join us and comment, and I'm extending the courtesy of bringing her in instead of doing public comment since. So,
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Gonzalez. The good news is I'm not gonna speak about anything today, because I do have some referrals that are gonna come through the commission. I want to hear what my colleagues say before I even come and present to you guys, so I can come and tell you and take the temperature. Of them, unless they don't even pull my referrals, then I won't really know. But I do have some items, and that was about the elections on the even years and some sort of proposal for strong mayor, because I know you're a manager, George, and you believe in that, but I think that two chefs in the kitchen, two top chefs just clash. The city manager, mayor, you need one person making the decisions, because otherwise it's not working the way it is. If it was a large corporation and you had an overriding board and then a CEO was accountable. And I'll tell you why. I was thinking about this on the way here and I wasn't gonna speak, but it hit me in the elevator. Because in a large corporation, the CEO, is definitely accountable. Okay, but the consumers aren't really out there. I mean, I guess that they're accountable to the consumers, but really the city manager is not accountable to the voters. It's the mayor who's accountable. So when you're not making this decision and you're being held accountable, there's something wrong. Many times I would like to make certain decisions. I cannot make those decisions because I'm not the city manager, or I don't have that. But I'm being held accountable, yet I don't have any power to change it. And it's very frustrating, especially for a mayor. And that's why you get that's why you have two bosses, and that's why it's inefficient. Because you have the mayor who's kind of pushing to do something and the city manager who has their own vision. And it really does clash. And I know that there's a lot of fear about giving somebody power, but it's really just more efficient. Because I've been witnessing this for the past 10 years, and what I've seen is the mayor had one agenda, the city manager another. It's very political. You've got one mayor, you know where you are. That strong mayor, Daniela Levine Cava, is not bound by sunshine with these other commissioners. So they can go, they can have conversations, they can really get stuff done. If the mayor, if you will elect the right person. That's the thing.
yes, that's big. If
Well, this system with the 5-week runoff, I don't know. But if we made some other tweaks, like even years,
you feel about strong mayor?
I don't know if they're gonna want to give up power. I think the mayor probably loves it.
Right.
Well, you have me. You have me and Mayor Minor. I have to convince 2 more people that strong mayor, and I have to, and I think it's easy to see. Because we see how little we've been able to get accomplished. So anybody,
You know, pay them commensurate.
I think so. I
Yeah,
think it would
full-time.
be, yeah.
I give you a 30 to 45 minutes or 3 hours on why I think the proposal is not right for us, but.
Well, let me ask this, isn't the manager though responsive to the commission and the mayor?
That's.
Isn't that really the bottom line?
Not necessarily, and you're still accountable. I mean, I still have voters telling me all the time, you haven't done X, Y, and Z, and it's because we have this manager and you rely on this
But
bureaucracy.
if the
It's
commission,
been there for a long time.
an agreement on the
Right.
direction, they tell the manager has to do it.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right, I'll give you a perfect example of how this stuff does not work. For example, we just passed a you cannot sleep in a park homeless ordinance, all right? Every single time that I see somebody laying in a park right now or laying anywhere in the city of Miami Beach and that person is not being taxed to go for services or arrested, you might not agree with me about the law, but I'm just giving you an example. Point is, we passed this policy. Is it being enforced? It's absolutely not being enforced. If I was strong mayor, I would go out there. I created the law. I appoint the police chief myself. I go out and I say to the police chief, you're not enforcing my law. You're gonna be out of here. Right now, we just can't. It becomes too critical.
It's not the structure.
That's the job of the man, you're supposed to tell the man.
Well, we did, but we still don't have that enforcement.
This is like-
I'm just saying it doesn't work. I think it's really the structure of what is going on because it's very
All right, so you
political.
weren't
If
gonna-
that one
so,
person. has the-
Person, what other
Are you
items?
gonna bring that back to us at some point?
If that one person has the right to appoint the different department heads, I think you have to be, if you go back,
You and I will have a little debate, you and I.
I would love to
Let's
bring
have coffee.
Maddie Bauer, Alex Dowd, every surviving mayor in here and have do a little focus group. Okay, of what, and I think they would all tell you the same thing, that it's a very frustrating job because it can't
Right,
affect any
So-
change.
Commission, so you're gonna take that to the council or commission and then bring that back?
Especially on the.
Well, I'm referring it, we'll see if it gets pulled or not, and if I can refer it, it's just a discussion, we're gonna refer it here, we're also gonna do a tandem discussion at neighborhoods on both of these things, so that you can get our feedback too,
Okay,
okay?
well, welcome.
Government reform, I love what you guys are doing. All about this.
May I just throw one thing in the mix only to think about?
No.
That
no,
Commissioner.
no.
It'll take-
No, Amy, offline. Go talk to her offline.
What? Okay.
Okay, well, tell her, we've got, I'm not saying. You wanted to tell her? She of course can talk, but tell her offline, it's on the agenda. So let's go to Bill of Rights.
Oh, wait.
Oh, and Kristen, thank you.
Thank you, George, thank you for.
I'll call you back, I do wanna,
Can we, I agree.
I wanna talk to you.
You're coming from the management perspective, so,
Let's go, oh,
I mean.
Please.
do you want, okay, we're just throwing it all out of whack. Which item is yours?
Um,
My item
are we
is,
doing slides?
So,
Okay.
it's number, it's actually the 10. It's on page 66.
And
Yep, it's agenda 10, sorry. I wanted to, there's been a lot of upheaval in this.
do you wanna
city
have
right
Kristen here?
Oh, I don't care. This is just a discussion. It's just do we want to weigh in? I think it's important that we should because these are charter offices. And I think that as this is a charter review, that we should make sure and make certain that everything is fully transparent, that we are vetting the right person because I mean, George, I think you were elected. You were, but it took a long time to find you, all right? But it did, it took a long time to find
Process,
you.
it was a committee.
So I don't know if maybe we want to say something. And that we want to avoid political favoritism, whatever, if we appoint an interim manager while we look for the right one.
What's the process now? Wait, time out. There's no vacancy in the matter. You're talking about the city attorney?
But also city attorney, okay, so
Yes,
there have been,
vacancy in
there's
city
been
attorney,
little
vacancy.
rumblings, let's do the city attorney
Yeah, because there's no vacancy in the.
right now.
So.
No, but I mean,
Because, yeah,
you know.
listen, I mean, there's a person there's a person in that seat, there's a human being there, we don't
that's
wanna,
correct, but okay, so let's just
so-
go with the city attorney. I would like for us to weigh in.
what's the
somehow.
process now for selecting the city attorney?
It's just,
Ultimately, it's a decision of the city commission.
it can be done
Okay.
They
tomorrow.
can choose to hire a headhunter, they can choose to put a committee together, or they can choose to pick somebody.
And I think it's.
So
important.
What you're suggesting is to dictate to the city commission the process.
I think that it's
Yes?
important, yes, and I think it's important that we do it while we currently have Rafael Paz in office.
Interesting, like a headhunter or a committee?
Whatever I'm just some sort of direction that, what do you guys?
Yeah, no, I think what she's saying is since the city attorney has formally announced and his last day is gonna be May 28th, is it, Nick?
Yeah, the end of May, we
That-
have 90
But
days.
that there be an expedient process, so whoever is appointed city attorney by the commission can have the benefit of the current city attorney still being here.
Yeah, that's.
So I think I think one of the words are expediency and transparency.
Correct.
I don't think she's suggesting a process because like, as you said, George,
Do we
that
want,
belongs to the city commission. But you have a unique opportunity where the city attorney has given 90 days.
Right, but, I heard different. I heard
He's
you.
right.
I'm
I
sorry.
hear that,
wanna
I hear that.
hear-
No,
I
no,
know.
Raul
But are
is
you
right.
suggesting that you would recommend that there be a committee or a headhunter or something like that, or just that
Like,
you
I would
want
like
somebody filled fast?
it be done as expedient as possible, and it be the right person, and that it not have any impropriety of political favoritism that we, look, I think it's important. It's a charter office.
Okay.
You want some aspirational goal here that the city is gonna do right, that the commissioners
We
are
have it,
gonna,
this is a charter, it exists.
but
But I-
it's- I don't understand,
I
that
think
you
that-
want a process here, suggesting that, oh, we wanna make sure it's transparent.
Yes.
It's on, but how do you write that?
No, I understand, but I think we need to be practical here, okay? And practically speaking, okay, I don't know that it's our job to dictate to the commission the process by which they select a city attorney or a city manager, anybody else. I think that the sunshine law creates transparency, okay, so that things aren't supposedly being done behind closed doors, so the selection process is out in the open through the sunshine law. And in terms of their process, I think that's what we elect them, the commission for, is to create the process that they believe best suits their members. So I think I think we're going out of bounds there, is my
Yeah,
view.
yeah, I think it's hard to come up with a one size fits all here.
What
I think
about,
there are
what about
situations-
going with this right here?
Sorry? Julie, go ahead.
No, I wanted Ron to finish his thought, cause.
Yeah, I think there are situations where there's somebody who's a number two, who's an obvious choice. And you can very quickly go to that. There are situations where you want to make a significant change. And you decide, well, we want to, fresh thinking, whatever, we're gonna hire a recruiting firm and we're gonna choose a firm that specializes in. One thing or another, in order to get the kind of candidate we want. There'll be situations where they'll want a selection committee to help screen those. There'll be other situations where they won't,
So.
they'll want to be more involved.
So let me be more clear. As opposed, I would like that I would like us to say, do we want an active political person as a city attorney? Or do we want someone who's an administrative person? So,
The
I don't
city
think you- I don't
attorney
think you
is
answered
not
that.
political,
It
first of
depends,
all,
yeah.
the city, we've got one here. The city attorney will
Well,
tell
I
you
hope you're
that
saying
they
I'm not
have-
political.
No,
I'm
well,
saying-
you have politics to deal with, but you have a higher level fiduciary, equivalent of fiduciary. You can maybe explain what, as a city attorney, the state law says.
Well, we take an oath.
You
Do you
take an
want-
oath,
do you
right,
want
and
to,
so
do you
you
want
can't
a
be political.
person? Do you want a politician as a city manager, or do you want an administrator as a city manager? That's the question.
You,
Wait,
both.
we're doing
No,
I see a
want the
politician
most
as
qualified
somebody who
person
I was-
listens to
position.
that's
the electorate.
exactly what I said.
But
That
yeah,
makes it-
but
that
what
makes-
Ron's
makes
saying
it
is true,
weird.
there may be different needs at different times, and if you set up a selection process, that's always gonna be, you have to do a countywide or a statewide or a countrywide search, it's a problem.
Can I say one other thing?
Yeah, and then I have a thought,
Okay.
it's responsive to your
Okay.
comment, but go first.
So my, one other comment is, in all of the city of Miami Beach, over the decades, the city attorney's office has never gotten involved in the down and dirty stuff of what has happened in the city. Just like,
Are you saying that's a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it's a good thing.
Well, then this present system's working.
I want us to state it. We don't want a politician. These guys are not politicians.
That's because Raul will tell you what under state or what federal, I don't know what, you have a certain.
Under the charter.
Well,
Under the
Yeah,
charter
yeah,
too,
what were you
but
gonna
you have the charter even higher level, the state, you
we
explain
have under the.
why a city attorney cannot act.
Right, the attorney-client relationship is a unique relationship of trust, and we have obligations under the Florida bar rules.
Right.
We have duties to our client that
Which
are
is
different
your
from,
client, which is the city.
which is the city,
Right.
which is the city, but
Exactly.
I just wanna respond to one thing Elizabeth said, which I think there is something in our code. Which I think speaks to what you're getting at, which is we have a 2-year post-service restriction. For former members of the city commission. That in order to seek employment or a contract with the city, they need a 5/7 vote of the city commission. I think it's following a public hearing too.
Mhm.
So
You can waive it though, with what, 5/7?
on a 5/7 vote.
I don't think that's what she's saying though.
No love.
No, but something along
No,
those.
she's talking on the front side, picking somebody that's not
No,
political and the
no,
most
no.
competent person, and I think that's a problem.
What I, is the concern that maybe there is a former politician who might be interested?
Maybe. I mean, I would like to avoid the,
That's what I'm putting
the,
two and two
I
together.
would like to avoid the appearance of impropriety. I would like to make certain that we are, that the right person is chosen for this office because it is so important. That it be based on merit and not anything other than
But
that.
a political person
This is-
could also be the most qualified person. For example, suppose you have a commissioner.
Yeah, no,
who's a-
that's good.
Commissioner's a lawyer, okay, sits on the commission for 2 years, and then there's a vacancy and he applies for,
That happened.
he applies for the position of city attorney because he is the most qualified. I mean, he knows the politics and he also knows the law, presumably.
But he's not, but Jose wasn't, but he's not an active political person. He's not on the scene.
No,
I'm saying it, but
That
potentially can
situation
happen.
happened, and then there was
Right.
another situation where you had his deputy become.
So when he, so
and
let me ask a
so
question.
He was the
because-
number two and he became an attorney, and he became the city attorney.
So was he active in the political circles and things like that?
He
When
was a city
when he
commissioner.
became, well, I'm
Yeah.
saying, but when he left the commission, how long before he was city?
6 months maybe, it was very quick. It was quick, it was less than
Are
2
we talking
years.
about Mr. Smith?
Yeah.
Yes, it was quick.
It was quick, it was less than 2 years before he left the commission and became city
When
attorney.
he was city manager, was
He
he,
was not city
He was-
manager.
I mean, sorry, city, when he was a city attorney, when he, and I started in the CRA with him, so, a fan,
He was the
but,
commissioner.
but was he, I'm trying to just get information because I feel like we have an opportunity right now to, we've weighed in on other things and I just would like,
Not hearing you get a lot of support here is the problem is.
well, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Are you concerned that there's been like foul play? I mean,
No.
or-
No, I don't want there
It's
to be.
preempting. it.
Right,
You're
yes.
trying to get ahead of the- you're trying to
But I
get ahead of
don't
it.
want
That's
there
a-
to be-
but
that's
to
a-
Sam's
we can-
point, I guess, you're saying, well, if things have, you know, proceeded in a certain way and we don't have reason to believe that.
I've got an
I
idea.
sort of like-
Maybe.
You've got
As I understand it, when the commission has their discussion about who they're going to hire. And, you know, they may even do interviews, and that is done in public.
It should
There's
be
that-
interviews.
Yes, no, that there's the initial screening out of stuff, and then when they decide, okay, I wanna hire Mr. X. Or maybe there's two people, they bring them in for an interview and it's public, right, Ralph?
Not necessarily.
Raoul?
Not necessarily, they may do one-on-one interviews.
No, they do first, but then they do a public, well, they have, at some point, they have to,
The appointment.
they have to do the
The
appointment, right?
appointment, yeah.
Now,
Right.
now, there is no opportunity for any resident
Public
input
input.
at that point. So if, for example, you know, and if there was, people didn't, you know, some commissioners may think twice about putting somebody up that that might upset residents, think that they're being, you know, playing political game or whatever. So, I mean, one thing that we could look at potentially is that as part of this residents' Bill of Rights is the ability to provide input at some point, maybe at the end, on the final selection.
Just,
Well, what
this
was
is
it?
discussion, so that's why I just, you know,
I don't know about, you know, they should provide that input, give you that opportunity, but maybe in the Bill of Rights, should there be something about, you know, merit and.
Yeah, well, you can
something
speak
in
at
the Bill of Rights
something.
that's aspirational?
I mean, what,
About
how do you even
merit,
qualify for
transparency.
merit? I mean, to me, merit is, you don't have any, you know, records, you don't have anything, it's an upstanding member of the community and, you know,
At the end of the day, all that aside.
Yeah.
Vote Murray Dubbin. 4 votes can change the laws of gravity. Or with 4 votes, you can repeal the laws of gravity. the commission is going to do what the commission chooses to do.
Sure.
Whether they
This is
follow these
just saying-
processes or not. And, but it wouldn't be bad for the Bill of Rights to say, hey, you know, somewhere in the administration or whatever, that it speak to merit, professionalism, code of ethics, things like that. That's not a bad thing to have. But not,
Isn't that really what they're doing anyway? I mean, they're never gonna say they're not looking for the most qualified candidate, you know what I'm saying? I mean, this is just, I
It
think.
seems like
it's
it's
trying
window
to
dressing.
throw, you know, trying to
Throw it help.
throw a help, but it's hard for us to dictate to them how they're gonna pick their.
Yeah.
Not how, but based on. This is the selection process, it is for be fully transparent and that it's based there, whoever it is based on merit, we're losing people right now. And this is.
Well, we're losing people for different reasons than merit.
Well,
Yeah.
no, you choose the next one on merit.
It has, it's politics more than merit. It's what
That's
people are leaving.
exactly why I put this on here.
But the politics are
That's
not coming from,
exactly why I put it
the
on.
politics are not coming from the people that are leaving. The people that are leaving are probably leaving because of the politics of the city.
That could be true.
But you can't change that. Then, you know, let's change, you know,
No,
the
it's
commission to not be
definitely
politicians.
By elections,
It's
if you don't think.
Now, and we're
Election-
If you're not happy with the actions you vote them out.
Yeah, unfortunately, the way our democracy works is it's not a quick change. It's just the way it is. You elect somebody. you think-
How
you
about-
think
how
you know
about-
what you're getting, but it may not be getting
Has the
so there.
commission always made the hiring decision, or has the city manager ever?
The
Also,
commission is
it gets-
required to, yeah,
The commission picks the charter.
all four charter
3 or
officers.
4 officers that are chartered, so. I understand and support that, they're words, I'm not sure that we can really dictate.
Unless we have something really, I don't wanna just put words out there, unless there's some specific action, like, as I suggest something, I'm not sure what's a good idea or not, but requiring a public hearing for the selection
I
of.
would
charter
like that.
officers.
But has
Is
to
it
be
not
a public hearing
required now?
for any action.
Is it a public?
Well, there's an opportunity to be heard, and we have that, we implement that
But
through
that's
the
such a-
new.
Set up public hearing
warrants.
for
Subject, yes, but it's not the same as a public hearing like with an ordinance, which means that you can't comment. Let's say they call that meeting in the afternoon. The person, they've done their little interview, they've had, you know, they're having their discussions, it's too late.
I know, I just, listen, let's think about it from the perspective of the candidate. You're sitting up there, you're gonna be voted on, and you have, you know, a litany of people getting up and saying why he's an awful person.
Yeah, well, I know he was cheating on his wife.
No, I don't think that's the intent. The intent is just.
No, I'm not saying
that
that's
it's
the
being-
intent,
that
that's
it's being,
not
that
gonna
it's
be the-
being,
That's not ideal
that
either.
it's,
He could still be the most qualified.
all right, well,
Is the commission required to alert the public at various stages of this process? Like, for example, we're down to
They could go
two,
pick a
and
decision
we'd like
tomorrow.
to,
Well,
you know.
But remember, every action that the commission takes, you know, it has, any vote the commission
Every
takes
public,
has
yeah.
to be taken at a publicly noticed meeting. And our code requires that any action the commission is scheduled to take be memorialized in writing in the agenda. So there's always going
Right,
to
but
be,
But for example, they could potentially be ready to announce their selection at a commission meeting versus, you know, provide an opportunity for the public to speak or question or whatever the case may be prior to the decision having been made. So,
I
you
think
know,
you
it's a little too
can
late at
recommend that
a
as part of the
commission meeting to,
requirement.
right, so.
Good practice to do that, and when I came down, they had a cocktail party, and they had all the candidates meet and greet with the residents and walk around, and the residents had a chance to one-on-one. You know, form their own opinion of the different candidates. So-
George, I wouldn't vote.
What about if they have an election committee, is that, are their meetings public?
what's that?
If they choose to have
Yes,
those meetings.
selection
A
committee,
selection
subject to
committee.
the sunshine law.
So that's another opportunity, by the way. Because they
We-
very
And
often
that's
do.
how
this
you got,
election.
like, you got appointed that way, right? The selection committee?
The committee, and then the council, the commission.
So maybe we
And the
say,
committee was a public hearing,
Well, It's
right?
public, so you can
Yeah,
go
a
and.
bunch of meetings,
Right.
public interviews, public
Right, I
hearings
mean,
on TV, and then
there was
they
nothing done-
recommended.
Was any part of it in secret?
Is there any,
But that's
is there
assuming there's a
anywhere, is
selection.
there anywhere that says
don't
that they
have
have
to
to have a
They don't
selection
have-
committee?
no,
They don't
sure.
have to, right? They don't have to have a selection committee.
Right? They don't
We
have. to.
recommend that they have a selection committee.
No, because there may be situations where it's not necessary, but that would be a possibility.
You know?
It adds an
We
additional
can't judge them
time.
all by him.
Oh, come on, he's the best.
I don't.
But it's okay. Great discussion.
Good
Thanks for
discussion.
getting it out there and
Yeah.
just,
All right.
thanks.
I'm gonna go to the.
But you don't need you in your corner.
Oh, I know.
Okay.
No,
No, listen, we don't always agree on everything, but we're here and we agree agreeably. Disagree.
Disagree.
No, I disagree. You wanna go number 4 now, the Bill of Rights, who's doing that one?
So,
Pull this.
what's that?
Right,
You wanna do 205 first?
which one is 205?
Nobody 201. You're 205?
I'm on item 4 of the agenda.
Do we have the proposed changes in the packet?
Yeah, I mean,
All right.
And I think we could probably get through 205, which is item 8.
Wait, a minute, we think,
or-
let's stick to the one on the agenda.
Well, I only read
You mean after I already.
Which one's
made
number
it up?
Charter section 2.05.
Which number is that?
It's number
That's
8
number-
on your agenda.
Okay, come on.
and then-
Total agenda is done. All right,
Okay, so 205, 205 is the section of the charter that addresses powers of the commission with regards to enacting ordinances. So we felt that the 2 public hearings requirement that the board had already expressed interest in, that you all wanted, is more appropriate to be in 205. So we put that in, and attending to that, Commissioner Suarez's request at the last Charter Review Board meeting was to have charter provision implementing the existing state statute that was recently enacted that authorized the city's alternative optional publication online.
Well-
And so we present that globally. Again, we're trying to be efficient and have thematically related matters within the same ballot question. This all fits within section 205 of that.
68, 58, okay. What was the?
65.
No,
63.
Yeah.
65 and
Yeah, 63 and 65.
Yeah.
You're correct, for your agenda, this is with something.
Oh, okay.
Got it. That's-
He was, Commissioner Suarez was taking his item to the commission. Do we know what happened with that?
It was
Not-
on this,
What happened?
it's on this agenda.
So it hasn't been heard yet.
No.
Hasn't been.
The county, I believe, has not had their second meeting yet.
And so, and they haven't hired the company that's gonna do this either. So we had talked about 2 public hearings. When we were dealing with Bill of Rights and
This is where we talked about where it was gonna be published too, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right, so the last commission, the last meeting, the Commissioner Suarez came. I get what you're writing, but what if we just didn't speak at all about whether it's a general purpose newspaper or a website and just left that to, and rather than dictating, why don't we just let the commission decide? And remove it from the charter and just let the commission determine, and 5 years from now, if there's some new technology, you don't need a charter review, you just adopt the new technology by ordinance.
I'm not too keen on that, George.
I'm only talking about the part about
I know.
advertising.
I think that that's important for that they be required to put this information on what's gonna be on the agenda, you know, I think we, on a website. This is, you know, if websites go away, then you're right, but at a bare minimum, I think it needs, that people need to be able to go and see what's gonna be on, because right now. The agenda itself, which has resolutions, discussion items, all that doesn't come out until a week at a time. And this gets published with respect to ordinances, how far in advance, 2 weeks, is it?
10 days.
But you only advertise the ordinance, not the agenda, right? Correct. So the agenda is on the website, not by charter, but by practice. I guess.
Well, our code requires that the agenda be published in writing 7 days out.
The code, not the charter.
You're asking about the website.
Right, no, go back, the code says the agenda needs to be published.
Right.
The charter says that the ordinances must be advertised.
And that is pursuant to state law. And now you have a new state law. And the old state law talks about the mandatory requirement for ordinances to be published in a newspaper of general circulation, words to that effect. The new state law amends that law to reflect current times, to provide for cities to have an alternate optional process to notice. But that statute that expressly applies to municipalities is limited to the city's ability to hook on to the county's website. So I would say to George, at this point, I mean, we would need to research it. But I couldn't say at this point that we could just say authorizing cities alternate optional publication. We're tying into the statute, which allows cities an alternate express method to
I guess what I'm saying is, if you just said tie it to the state authorization. Rather than specifically putting.
in
the
chapter
website.
50 Florida statute.
Yeah, instead of putting the web, because
Yeah,
if tomorrow,
but-
next year, the legislature changes. We're stuck with this language.
Well, how about a public accessible website, I think is
I like that.
actually a minimum. So I'm thinking, why don't we just do it as a publicly accessible website hosted by the county or the city, I don't know if the city would fly, and any other source of publication the
No,
commission
no,
deems appropriate.
We couldn't do that
Why?
because, again, the statute is an express process for cities to follow. And it talks about the county, but I agree with George that we could say,
Drop the
hosted by authorize-
Miami-Dade County.
so long as we
Absolutely.
reference in accordance with chapter 50.
That's what I'm saying.
The alternate option of publication of legally required advertisement in courts. The only thing that I will say, by having this language about accessible website, it does inform the voters more about what is
Yeah,
chapter
but I'm gonna
50.
tell you, technically, the county's not gonna host the website. The county's gonna outsource that to a third party.
But that's the
And
county,
the statute allows it, but this says a county hosted website. And so
but they're
one
doing
could
it for the
argue.
county, right, Ralph?
Well, that's how the statute's
Through.
Well, I think the county's gonna take ownership
Yeah.
over, it, even if it's
Exactly.
subcontracts, the
Right.
county's ultimately
Exactly.
responsible.
And
Yeah,
under the
right,
sta-
it
under
That's what I
the-
think you
under the
meant to say.
under the statute, it has to be the county.
Right,
Yeah.
right, but
So-
a lawyer might say hosted by Miami-Dade County. It's not.
Ralph, you were gonna say.
So, Ralph, you ready?
I thought where you were going with this was that most municipalities do not have a requirement in the charter that says that it must be publicly advertised in a newspaper of general circulation. That, I thought you were gonna say eliminate that section, so we are now like every other
Okay,
city.
I will,
You do
this
that
is
and
what I would say
just-
to that.
And then
By code.
by code, adopt
Right.
whatever.
The state
Right,
statute.
here's-
That's what I was
that
trying to say.
language-
I would go.
Again, and we could do that, because
Okay.
that language,
thought they
that's
did.
presently in the charter, that has been in the charter
You're just
for
cutting
ages,
it.
is taken verbatim from the state statute, which applies to us regardless of whether the city has it in the charter or not.
See, that's where.
The only thing is,
If you leave the charter more generic and delegate that power to the commission, they still have to abide by the state's, statute. But it's
They
not,
do.
and
But you know what
it might change from time to time.
And I don't mean to put my thumb on the scale, but the question you're proposing is repealing the
Mhm.
requirements in our charter for noticing of ordinances.
Right.
So you
Right.
only have so many
Right.
questions to submit to
exactly.
Yeah, that's a problem.
So why don't we just go back to George's original, authorizing the city's alternate option of legally required advertising and notices on a public accessible website pursuant to chapter 50 of the Florida statutes. If you want, I mean.
Yeah.
That
That's
would be,
fine.
I think that's what you have, you
Yeah,
have that in
yeah.
your question.
Yeah.
So you just make your question what you have in the text. So read your second bullet. I think we're.
no, the text also says hosted by Miami-Dade
That's what
County,
they changed your text.
You did.
right?
It's not-
So
I mean, I'm trying
the
to
big
open
thing
it
is,
up.
you want to delete hosted by the county.
Yeah. And that's confusing. I think,
But I thought
I-
you said that was
I
required.
think we should.
I mean,
It
that's,
is, and
that
we're
is
talking about-
That
that's
is
the
the
only
No,
way
no,
we
no.
can do it.
that is the only
Yeah,
way
okay.
today.
Today,
It
But
is,
the state next year might say, you know what, cities, why does the city of Miami have to go to Miami-Dade County? They can have their own website, host it themselves.
Right.
It's a big enough city and now they're stuck by what they wrote in the charter.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make it so that it can evolve with the statute without having to come change.
Yeah.
So you're saying it posted on a publicly accessible website?
As
Yeah,
permitted,
but-
as permitted by Florida statute section 50.0311.
But here's the thing. Let's say that this is put in the charter. And a year from now, Georgia's concern is addressed and the legislature changes it. Then the city's bound by that new statute. Much the same way we have things in our charter, as most municipalities do, that are obsolete. But they have to comply with the new law. So even if this whole language is in the charter and the statute is amended, we will be bound by that new
Right.
law.
How do we feel about this?
Well, to Gene's, just to, this, that we would be bounded by a new law, that the new law could simply say it can be either county or municipal, but because our charter says county, we don't have the option to go to municipal. So, because we say that we're gonna be on a county.
I don't think
That's
that's
not
what she's
accurate.
saying.
First of all, I'm not saying that, but also that is not necessarily accurate.
Okay.
Because it's a question of whether or not the statute preempts the city such that we cannot have any other form. And I haven't looked into that issue. Do you know if the statute preempts us? I think the intent is to preempt
I think so.
the city.
I think.
And if the intent, I'm sorry if I,
No, go
if
ahead.
the intent is to preempt that if there is an amendment in the future, then we again, as I just said, the city would be bound by that statute. Now, I don't mean to suggest that it's a good thing to have obsolete provisions in a charter, but the point is just by operation of law and by time they change, there are provisions in a charter that are eventually outdated. And you don't,
Is
And
there,
about
If you just
is
said
there
pursuant
language
to
that you could
Florida
draft?
Statute 50.0311 without describing what.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Is there language that you
Yeah,
could
but
draft that
that's
would make this
just-
general, so.
Add the statute and don't use the number.
Well,
Why do
but
you need the number? Just say Florida statute.
I think we're getting, now, if we're worried about the number or the chapter number, I think if you're gonna be dictating to us how we frame the number, I mean, I think the question is more. Is we need to be able to describe the change in law, and if the intent of the measure is that notice can be published on an accessible website of the county, I think that does need to be reflected in the question.
I would agree.
But I don't think that's that hard to write, is it?
Well, it's in the question. We drafted it that way.
All right, guys, that's not.
So you're saying it's limiting us too much, should anything change, and you're saying that ultimately.
I'd say at the end of the day, that's not gonna matter.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, if the statute is amended, that statute will apply in municipalities.
Right.
It just takes
That's
over.
right.
I mean, it's-
So I don't.
Okay, guys,
Leave it as is.
So then we don't need to, we don't need to mess with this, is what you're saying,
I think it's
right?
fine.
Is that what you're saying?
so this will require, and go back to bullet one.
No.
Forget the
Saying
advertising.
it's 7:20
And
it's
the
fine.
bullet, the
What
bullet
time are you
one,
leaving?
public hearing.
That was it.
We're gonna have public hearings on the first and second readings, so that's what this is requiring.
That's what the committee
That would be-
discussed.
that would
Then
be
they
my
have-
vote.
Yeah, no, I agree, just wanna be clear. Okay, anybody have any other questions on this?
Leave it alone.
Anybody have a motion on this?
I'll accept the language.
You're moving?
Yeah.
And I'll second.
Motion by Ron, second by Elizabeth.
So the language as is.
As is-
Yeah.
as is.
As is.
Yeah.
And you're saying this is as general as it needs to be, Gene,
I'm
right?
sorry.
It's.
You're saying this is as general as it needs to be, so any changes in the law would automatically be included, right?
And
Yes,
saying
okay.
that the statute, if the
I-
statute is amended, the statute will apply.
So the answer to my question is yes.
Right.
Yes, so.
Chairman Tinalik, it's also to 1.03C.
Got it.
The Live Local Act preempted us from doing FAR referendums.
Right,
It's still in our charter, but we're bound to follow state law.
okay, you got me then.
Wasn't to live local. Yes.
What?
It wasn't to live local.
Oh, I'm sorry, what is it? What's Florida?
Anyway, I got a motion and a second, all in favor, say aye. Aye, any opposed? No, so the unanimous on that.
He's making the motion that it's dinner time.
I know.
10 minutes, I'm giving you 10 minutes and then we're both leaving,
No, no.
so then you lose your quorum.
Do you-
Four,
No, if the two of us leave,
that's four, still, four is
oh,
four.
you still have a quorum, but would you want to do it without? us?
Moving on.
Listen, we, of course, Bill of Rights is the. You know, the thing we've been kind of kicking to the back, and we at least get a start on that conversation, so you bring it to that.
We had, I brought it, we had, the recommendations from the city. And I want to say it was back in July or something, from Alina, remember when Alina came in and
Yeah, but first we're gonna do Bill of Rights, which was,
that's what this is.
that's what, oh,
It's here on page 53,
that's here.
right?
I brought all
Were
of
those in
it.
Bill of Rights, Alina's changes, or were those, some of them were?
This is everything that they have suggested.
Oh, that's when the manager first presented. Yeah, I know there was about the non-interference, which
Everything.
Gene has captured.
Yeah, we
Right.
captured that, so let's
So
let's go to Bill of Rights, and this is the beginning of a longer conversation, so we want to stay here.
Well, it is, you know, it's 7:21, so maybe let me jump to the
Yeah, you got nine, poor George.
I mean, we can stay as long as we wish, of course,
What?
but maybe we should start with remedies for violation because
That's a good.
what we have done, we feel, is incorporate with it. We provided you the outline of the substantive changes that you wanted under section A of the outline. Section C is to be discussed. Again, section A reflects what you've already discussed many times with regard to these changes. Section C, the remedies, is an open issue. Yes. Then we can discuss it.
So you've captured some of the stuff that we've mentioned, I see that you've captured the casino items. Elizabeth, you had that as a separate item, but I had brought that up a while ago, so it looks like you got it in here, right?
Where's that?
No casinos, didn't I see that in the?
It's under your page is 52, item.
It's the gambling opposition.
it's the gambling opposition.
Okay.
No, but didn't I read it in the Bill of Rights?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it's number 24.
Oh, you're right, yeah.
20, that's what that's 24.
You guys,
Right, thank
okay
you.
with number 24? And that'll take another item off of the agenda as well.
Wonderful.
It looks like it's what.
What page is that?
And yours 52, number
52.
24.
Page 52.
George's special, he gets the special document.
No, I just printed it before I got the following.
Yeah.
In here, if you go to that section, you see the 1, 2, 3, 4 items that were added.
21 through
21 through 24. That's really
Historic
what we're
preservation,
looking
affordable housing, gender neutral language and gambling opposite.
at. Gender neutral, we had the
Human rights.
committee came, or the
Yeah.
human rights committee.
Yeah.
And so this is the language that you guys have got, so I think it's good. Same with the gambling opposition, I think that was good, and it's.
Where's the gambling doing the rights now?
There is
Oh, I understand, but do we write it in here?
No, it's 24, it'll be added.
It's gonna be asked.
Page 52 of those things are being added.
Oh, okay.
George, draw the picture.
Yeah, map and everything.
So how do you handle this?
Yeah, Evelyn, go see Evelyn.
How do you handle this in a ballot question? There's so much stuff.
There is so much stuff, which is why, one of the things that we did pursuant to the chairman's request that we were going to discuss with you if time allows, is we prepared an outline of the issues that the board has approved, that are pending, and that have not been approved. Because there will have to be a vote of the board. At least this is how it was handled in prior charter review boards, as to which matters are going to be for recommendation for presentation on the ballot. And which will fit into the other category, which can be measures that the board recommended, but not for the ballot because there are so many items. Because we're unable to start drafting, for instance, the Bill of Rights question until we narrow this down. There is a lot. But if the board approves, we could.
But how would you do with a question that is the Bill of Rights question? Shall the Bill of Rights be amended to include additional items, 1, 2, historic preservation, affordable housing?
Given
get
this
this into the
many
text.
items, given this many substantive
Or would
changes,
they be one each?
it will. One each for each change.
I'm asking.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. The Bill of Rights, remember how we've discussed that we have thematically connected, thematically related issues and ballot questions. And it is appropriate, in my opinion, to put the Bill of Rights changes in a Bill of Rights question. The challenge will be wording it within 75 words, which is why we may need to put in more than one ballot question for a Bill of Rights. At this point, we think that there may be a way to frame it to provide enough information to the voters to comply with the statutory requirements for drafting ballot language to adequately set forth the chief purpose of the measure. But we need to get guidance from the board as to what they actually want and what you don't want presented to the voters. But the issue of penalties remains open, that we need, to know what a final vote. And we have our positions on that we want to express.
So
before
let me,
we're ready.
before we get to the remedies, any one of these four that you guys feel strongly one way or another?
We mean 21, 22.
21, 22, 23,
Yeah, I mean, I like them all. This is what we all, yeah, this is what we all like.
Gender neutral language.
Yeah.
I don't like the
Right?
gamble.
That came from the.
No?
No, I remember.
I don't believe it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys, one at a time. Julie, you were saying?
Yeah, just, help me understand why it's not enough to just say that the city of Miami Beach recognizes that gender neutral language by the city is a requirement.
Like the
Why
first
do we
sentence.
need to specify that pronouns need to be used, for example, when that's,
You don't need
that's
to.
extraneous? I mean,
You don't
I
need
mean
to.
offend,
It's
I just
policy.
mean, okay,
It's
okay.
policy.
But just to simplify is all I'm saying, because I know that there's obviously a lot to consider here. But when I read gender neutral language, I know I don't need a pronoun to
I
let
think the
me know.
intent,
Yeah.
if it helps clarifies, there are instances where it'll say the city manager or his designee. And that's what I think the board, when you had this discussion, I think that's what you were trying to remedy is those like when it's just his or he.
Right, but then it wouldn't be gender neutral if we're using those pronouns.
Right.
And so I'm saying that as a resident, I'm understanding that without needing to have a pronoun, for example, like that's sufficient, or that's.
Oh, like saying the city manager or the city manager's designee and not.
Correct, and I
saying
don't,
it or her.
you don't need to.
So
tell
you're
me that
making it
it's
essentially the
a
first sentence, not.
Yes,
you
right,
don't
exactly.
hear it like a third.
Reading it, but maybe other people need it spelled out
No,
in another way.
I have not.
Well, that's
I
what
mean,
I'm
it's
saying,
pretty,
it
we
seems
don't
pretty,
need to go into just.
and I recall
know,
her
excessive
saying,
detail.
yeah.
On all of them.
Anyway, I think it's
Okay.
critical, I like 23, I mean,
That's
feel
good.
free
Yeah,
to
yeah.
jump in.
What about these others? The subjects we like, are we,
Wait,
Well,
are we,
I'm
are we
curious, the
only,
gambling issue seems to me
Not to strike,
to have
that's my.
no
Yes.
merit in the sense that the state
Not getting
can
closed out,
say,
just to say
we're
gender.
gonna put gambling on Miami Beach.
This has nothing to do with that. This is the city's policy.
No,
If
no,
the
no,
state shoves
I
it,
get
if the
that,
state
but
shoves
it
it down our
is
throats, they do.
It is the
Such an
current
inflammatory-
city
That's just-
position, aspirational,
And
we don't want
like,
gambling.
Right.
every-
5 years from now,
Right.
6 years from now,
By
they decide, you know what, we think it's good.
It's never gonna be good for the city.
Well, no,
And
no,
that's not
you
what
may
we're
say
saying.
that
no,
now,
you're right, that's
but
right.
you don't know what it's gonna be like X number of years from now. And ultimately, it doesn't matter what we say, the,
Well, then.
Florida
you could apply that
legislature-
to all of this.
no, the Florida legislature can preempt it and will preempt it.
If they preempted, they
They'll
do,
make
but
a
if it's still,
decision.
that's not inconsistent with the city's policy.
the city's policy today is to
Correct.
be against casino.
Right, but so what?
But the chart, but the
But why do you
chart-
wanna lock them in for 10 years?
The chart, I think I do, I personally.
I agree.
I'm saying the
Gambling is
charter
not
and
good.
Mark's
I-
definition.
You're not being locked in, they have the ability to, if they wanna do something 5 years from now, it just means they have to go to voters. and
Yes.
get the voters.
This is a chance for the voters to say,
So it
we don't want
just
to
said,
see.
you can't just, they can't just do it out of hand, they have to get voter.
And even if the state comes in, they're gonna come in, this is
And if
just.
the state preempts, the state preempts.
So why are we even talking?
Why
And so
not?
we can make an aspirational statement that we don't think gambling ought to be.
We wanted to be aspirational about public housing, now it's something more criminal.
Well, I agree, so why? are
Oh, so
we
this is
having
why
that
you're
in
making a
there?
fight, because we didn't give you your public housing?
No, we have it.
But that's the suggestion. It's
But here's
simple.
where affordable housing is.
Why don't we have it in here?
Yeah, this is why we didn't have, need it in the other place. If you don't behave, we'll take it out of here too.
Okay,
Yes.
guess what?
We're in the minute, we're in the
One
middle.
minute, you know, 1 minute.
No, I mean.
Originally,
I
I
didn't
didn't
want
it's here, in the Bill of Rights.
Sorry.
But the
It's on
state
gender
can't
neutral.
preempt
They can.
affordable.
Where I
Well, they can preempt anything,
Right.
but they expressed no desire to,
This is a
and
chance,
it's
Yeah.
never been up there.
this is a chance for the voters to weigh in. And also kind of require a future vote. I got it. Well, it's in, if, I wanna confirm what Ron was saying. If this item, number 24, were voted on and it's now in the Bill of Rights, say. The position of the commission can no longer change to be pro casino, notwithstanding the politics of it. This kind of locks that position in, does it not?
I mean,
It's aspirational,
thing,
it's in
yeah,
the Bill
the
of
language
Rights,
is
but it's not,
aspirational.
section 103 or.
I don't think there would be any penalty. It's really no way to enforce it against a commission that, let's say, wanted to.
Revenues, but.
Yeah,
But theoretically, if the commission wished to change their position, could they do it by vote of the commission? Or would they need to go and get a referendum? Which is what Ron was. That's a good question.
it is a good question.
Well, it gives somebody a basis for suing, I think, to say,
Yeah.
you commission
Violating
cannot
the
do
law.
this. They can bring a suit to say, because in the charter, it says that you can't. Now, of course, as we said, if state law changes,
That's
then
opposed.
it's moot, but this at least
says
prevents the
opposed.
commission from
From just doing what they want.
doing what they want
Good
in the
point.
absence of state law.
Because you're kind of locking that in some way. whether
Well,
it's-
what we've also seen in the past is, for example, we've seen this in complaints before. Let's say the city does change it, the commission does change its position,
Because
and a citizens group
It says
brings an
the-
action against the city. They would certainly include a violation of the charter as a count. So, but that's a very good question about referendums. I would have to look at
Because,
that.
now, the state could preempt us if they wished, but,
Right.
Well,
here,
but the
Well,
locality.
I thought that the charter could be amended at any time by referendum.
Yes,
Oh,
Yes.
they can,
Yeah, you don't have to wait the 10 years for the
Right.
charter review.
right.
So if the commission at that time said, want to put a ballot question to remove the.
Oh, right, remove that, right.
Then
They
they
could
could
do
do that. And the
Right.
voters would then vote.
That
on
they
it
can
up
do.
or down.
right,
Right.
That's what I'm saying. So it gives the voters ability to weigh in before a commission takes that action.
I'm happy.
And
with
it
it.
gives a hook for somebody who wants to sue and say it's not in the charter. And then that bolsters their case when they go to the judge or whatever, saying.
It's
"Hey, this is-
stronger than just an ordinance
Yeah.
or a policy.
That this action by the commission is a violation of the charter.
Sam, you? How do you feel about it?
oh, yeah, well, that's a good point, Nick, I didn't catch that. Nick, do you want
Yeah,
to
you
say?
want to-
No,
Well, there you go.
Ron, you were asking, would a citizen have standing to sue if the commission took a position in favor of gambling?
If they took an action against the charter.
Well, Nick,
It's in the charter.
Ron just made a statement that a citizen could sue. And there are issues of standing as to when a party has the right to sue, when they don't. So we're not, there's this public meeting and, we can't give away any attorney-client privilege, but we are not conceding any issue of standing.
Sure.
All right.
Just
I
need
guess.
to say that.
I like it.
I got 2, 3,
So,
Julie, how do you think?
yes, I do, but this goes to what we were talking about earlier, if we bundle this with other points that somebody might, like, couldn't this kind of
Put it with the
bomb
commission
like the
salary
whole
question
thing? I mean,
together.
like, this is so.
I mean, so you're saying,
Well, there's-
could we do these as separate items?
Yes, of course you could, but you've
It's gonna
got
be
already
definitive
approved
how many
ballot
questions that
questions.
we're
But
That has
We're
to
not
be
limited to
question.
questions, are
I
we?
agree, but I feel like
so
there's so
many
unrelated.
Are we limited to number of questions?
You're not.
We're
looking-
not
No, well,
Okay,
but
and
you're not.
is there too many questions? Is there a number that's too many?
Remember, it's in November 2024. It's an even number
It
of ballots,
depends.
presidential election, it's gonna be a
You're
very
gonna
long
have,
ballot.
you're gonna have. a
And
green
even
process
if it
over
Yeah,
wasn't
it's
a
8 to 10
November,
8 to 10
even if-
is about a rule of thumb.
even if it wasn't a November,
Oh, wow.
even if it wasn't a November 2024 ballot,
So 8.
you are already looking at 9 to 10 ballot questions based upon
Yeah, I wanna,
what the board
let's see if you guys can bring that for the next
proposed.
meeting, so we can kind of start thinking about, because we voted on a lot of things, and it may be that some of them we say, yeah, but it's not our top 10
Oh,
priority.
Right, there you go. We may have to start narrowing them down.
But and that's fine, that's a good process, and we'll get there, we.
So that we don't want to separate these just because it's four, it'd be 4 more versus 1 more.
Right.
Or you
Yes.
can decide which of these issues you do want to present to the voters and which you don't.
Right.
Can we do that not after 7:30
Yes.
today?
We're gonna, so I wanna just give them something to go back with, so
We need to.
is there any direction you need on these?
Sorry.
Well,
Well,
I think
gender
remedies,
neutral
Julie had
question.
another comment.
We're not talking about this tonight.
We're not gonna talk about it. Yeah, we're gonna get there. We got yours in, Sam, Julie, go ahead.
Well, we were talking about the gender neutral language and what it could potentially. Can you help me with this?
Yes.
I feel like you said.
I
it
think
so
the
much
term
better than I
general,
could say it.
I mean, your version of gender neutral is don't say his or her. But gender neutral is such an inflammatory term right now because of the they, them, their, and I think that if you, and this goes to the bundling issue, if you're bundling a bunch of questions regarding, or the Bill of Rights provisions into one question, that could tank everything because some people don't like this whole gender neutral concept. And I think you could also accomplish this policy by having direction to the city. I mean, at least when I draft, I am very conscious of that. And I think if you have, city attorneys of similar mind, which you probably will going forward, we just need to be conscious to make changes in documents and in ordinances. I don't know that you need this in the.
Well,
I guess
the
it's
Human Rights Committee came and spoke and it was pretty clear that they wanted, it wasn't.
No, they
As
asked,
opposed-
point blank, they
yeah,
asked for it.
they asked-
They asked
they-
for it.
Gender pronoun.
They asked,
They
they
asked
asked
for it.
for, if you've got something that says her, or, I mean, I don't.
No, gender,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you're right, and you're absolutely right, that you don't want something that's going to, adversely affect the success of.
And maybe just put this as a separate question.
It could either be a separate question, or there's a point in our report where we're gonna say we didn't.
Because you don't want to take
We
everything.
advised that you might wanna do these by code or by policy, but they don't rise to the level of a
Right, and
charter.
that's the direction that we need, that we'll give you at the next meeting. An outline of all of these things, so you all can vote on which things will be in the ballot questions. And which issues will be matters that, as George said, you're recommending that the board consider as a recommendation.
So I think for now that there's not much direction to give you on these four, then it's just.
I have a question. I was just checking my notes. I just wanted to be clear, because my notes are probably lacking, but on the right to be heard, did we all finally agree that the Sutnick Forum would be memorialized in the morning and noon?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry, then my notes were, I thought it was 5, after 5, but we jettisoned that, right? Okay, thank you.
On this, on this gender,
I'm with you, girl.
on the gender
No, one to
neutral,
be held, one to be held at the meeting's commencement,
Right, the
but
morning,
one to be held after 12 noon.
okay, right, okay.
On the gender neutral question,
Yeah, yeah.
if we just limit it to the first sentence,
I'm happy with that.
that,
Okay,
that- does that
good.
express the policy
Yes.
and eliminate the
Period.
controversial issues of pronouns? I think that's what we should do.
All right,
Do I need to make a motion on that? Or just?
You give direction.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I think that solves the problem, I think, right?
It's how it strikes you. I mean,
No.
how it strikes
I see
us.
what you're
we're
saying.
not, we're only leaving in the
I
first
get it.
sentence.
Got it.
Others are a
We
little
have to
bit
leave
more
the ballot
sensitized,
question.
Yeah.
sensitized to it.
Let's see how they're gonna frame this ballot.
I move
You
we
guys
adjourn.
Try to frame a ballot question? On these things, is there a way that you can get?
I need to wait till after
I have to go through.
the
I promised
board
my son
reviews
to take
the
it.
issues and it tells us
Why,
which issues they want
Huh?
now
Why-
and which issues will be presented as the recommendation for the city commission's future consideration.
Sorry.
So
Thanks to the veterans.
Sam, love your wife.
now let's do Remy.
No.
We're not doing Remy?
Okay, I have one more for clarification on Bill of Rights. Remember when the OIG was here? He talked about non-interference, in the Bill of Rights, right?
No, it's not in the
No,
bill.
It's not in the
We
bill of
put it in-
I'm sorry,
Charter
okay, never mind, I apologize.
No, no, that because that's an important
Okay.
point.
I
but
don't wanna
the
take
board
the board's
already-
time, Sam.
That non-interference in
Thank you,
charter
Gene, I'm
205.
sorry.
And-
Apologize.
Yeah, all right.
Move to adjourn?
Apologies. I'm hearing a move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay.
And I got a second here. When's our next meeting?
March 20
Right in the heart of.
March.
March 26th?
Right in the
March
heart of.
25.
March 25.
Patrick's Day.
March
We need to
25.
agree with
Do you, do I put this item back on the agenda?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
All right.
Walk with you, 'cause we
I'll
need
wait
to
till
jump on that.
I'll wait till he.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Good meeting.
We'll see.
We adjourned.
We'll send you all the stuff.
Thank you,
All
sir.
right.
We love you. Yours in?
Yeah.
Thank you. It was.
Are you,
And,
yeah,
I'm gonna receive.